Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that slight delay. My name is Chris Buckley, and I'm part of the 405 Project Community Outreach team. I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon for this online meeting. I'll be providing a brief update on the project and then focusing in on activities coming up at the Edinger Avenue Bridge. Just pop a 1 into the chat window if you can see everything and see me and my colleague Joey Fernandez here. Let us know that you can hear us and see us okay. Just type a 1 into the chat window, please. Excellent. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. Thanks, everyone. Awesome. All right. So usually we hold these meetings on Saturday mornings, as some of you may know. Donuts, coffee, and it's a nice early morning conversation. However, of course, in response to current circumstances, we're conducting our neighborhood meetings online. First, just a bit of housekeeping for you. If you get disconnected, just hit that big reconnect button and it'll bring you right back into the presentation. I'll begin in a few moments with that presentation, which will be followed by a Q&A session. But in the meantime, feel free to submit your questions at any time in that chat window. I'll start off the Q&A by answering those questions and then take any additional ones that come in, and we'll answer everything all the way through the end of the discussion. Also, under the Files section, you'll see several PDFs. These include the project fact sheet, the bridge map and fast facts, our Edinger Avenue Bridge FAQ, our express lanes Q&A, and our express lanes access map. Feel free to download those at any time during the presentation. And if you don't get a chance to, or you're going to tell somebody else about this presentation, they're going to watch it later, we can always send those to you. Under the Offers section, you'll find a link to sign up for project alerts. You can sign up for the project-wide alerts if you don't already receive them, and you can sign up for bridge-specific alerts, which go out when we have major activities occurring at any of the bridges, such as the start of a new phase or demolition of a bridge. We'll also be conducting a few instant polls during the presentation, so please participate in those when you see them pop up. And we'll be sending out an electronic survey after the meeting, and we'd really appreciate your feedback. Joining me for this discussion, you can see on screen, is Joey Fernandez. She'll be broadcasting the questions as they come up. And I'd also like to acknowledge my additional team members in the background, Asia Stansell, Jessica Stock, and Anna Finlay. They'll be managing the questions as well and communicating with the audience through the chat box. And finally, I want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded and will be available within the next 24 hours. So if you missed something or you know someone who couldn't join us tonight, head over to bit.ly /405 webinar-Edinger. So that's bit.ly /405 webinar-Edinger. It'll be there tomorrow for you to check out. All right, now please take a moment to participate in our first poll. We'd like to know how you found out about the meeting. All right. Now I'd like to jump into a brief overview and a status of the project, and then we'll move into an update on the Edinger Avenue Bridge. So in this slide, on the left, you can see the project limits are from approximately State Route 73 in Costa Mesa to I-605 in Seal Beach. It's a length of about 16 miles. On the right, you'll see that one regular lane will be added in each direction in the 405, and that's consistent with Measure M, as shown in yellow. An additional lane will be added in each direction that will combine with the existing carpool lane to provide dual express lanes from State Route 73 to Interstate 605. That's shown in green. Now a little bit about the project benefits. I mentioned the new lanes. We're also replacing 18 bridges. We're adding a new connector from State Route 73 directly to the I-405 express lanes. And we're widening several bridges that go over facilities like Beach Boulevard, Harbor Boulevard. We're widening bridges over the Santa Ana River as well, and a couple of where railroads intersect with the freeway. All of the interchanges are being reconfigured in one way or another. In a lot of cases, for example, say at Brookhurst or Beach Boulevard, you'll notice where when you get off coming northbound, you're forced to sort of merge into those northbound lanes on Beach Boulevard, and you got to try to move over really quick to get left turn on McFadden, for example. Well, in that case, we're gonna, in the case of the new configuration, the northbound off-ramp will come to a T intersection with Beach Boulevard. We will be eliminating the southbound loop off-ramp. So in other words, the northbound 405 loop off-ramp to southbound Beach Boulevard, that gets eliminated. And you'll be able to make a turn left or right from the straight northbound off-ramp. We're doing that in a lot of places. It's safer for motorists. It makes it easier to get over those several lanes to make the left to those arterials that are really close to the freeway. The other thing it does, of course, is makes it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. Making a lot of arterial street improvements throughout. You'll notice that for every bridge that goes over, like Edinger, for example, all of those bridges are being widened to their maximum capacity. We're adding lanes in many cases. Edinger isn't one of those because its maximum capacity is meant to stay at 4 lanes. But for example, McFadden went from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, things like that. We also are replacing and in a couple places adding walls, sound walls, retaining walls throughout the entire project. All of the new overcrossings will have bike lanes and sidewalks in both directions. This is a 6-year project, but that's a combination of design and build. So we're just about completed with the design. I think there are a couple of small things that are still going on with design, but we're mostly completed. And we're about 40% of the way through construction. So we're well on our way, and the project is expected to conclude in 2023. And the cost of the project is approximately $1.9 billion. All right, so this slide is our bridge construction map slide. You actually have a copy of this in the PDFs under the files section, and it's also got the fast facts on that one. So this slide shows a map that represents what year construction is anticipated to begin for each bridge, and that's within the project limits, and whether that bridge is a 1-stage or a 2-stage bridge. The 2-stage bridges are open to traffic during construction. At this point, we've begun construction on the bridges shown in blue and purple. One of those, Slater, is open, has been completed. Of the other 12 under construction, 3 are 1-stage bridges, 3 are widenings, like I said, over Beach Boulevard, for example, and 6 are 2-stage bridges. So next, I'd like to talk a little bit more about construction, give you a little bit of a construction update. Maybe we can make ourselves a little smaller on the screen there so we can see these photos. So as I mentioned, a lot of walls working on the project. More than 70 walls are currently under construction or completed. These 2 photos reflect some of the aesthetic patterns that are being placed on retaining walls and sound walls. This slide shows the Santa Ana River Bridge, which spans both the river and Euclid Street in Fountain Valley. Now, this bridge is being widened using precast concrete girders. You can see those girders being placed there. This next slide shows the drainage being installed along the side of the freeway in the photo on the left, and the reinforcing steel for a concrete barrier and the concrete pavement in the photo on the right. So you'll see that throughout the project, right? Where, for example, all the ramps are being converted to concrete. It's a little more expensive, but it lasts longer. All of the new lane additions where we're actually running traffic over new lanes, all of that's being implemented as concrete, reinforced steel concrete, just to make it last longer, best as it can. All right, this slide shows a little bit of the work going on at Talbert Avenue and Westminster Boulevard. The photo on the left is of the false work being installed for the Talbert Bridge. That false work installation has been completed, and they'll start to work on the wood formwork coming up next. The photo on the right shows placement of reinforcing steel that is inside the Westminster Bridge. The photos on this slide represent additional construction work going on at McFadden and at Westminster. The photo on the left is, shows the wooden formwork, and those are the forms that are in the bottom of the new concrete bridge. So they really are part of they stay there. They're ultimately what's called lost deck. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And the photo on the right shows the deck being poured for the Westminster Bridge. Excellent. So now I want to talk a little bit more about what's coming up. Construction of the project, as I mentioned before, is more than 40% complete. And the design builder, that's the contractor, they have about 700 workers actively involved in the project. We've opened the first halves of the Magnolia Street, the Bolsa Chica Road, and the Golden West Street bridges. And work on the second halves of those bridges is well underway. Work also has begun to reconstruct the Howell Avenue pedestrian bridge. And in the coming weeks, the McFadden Avenue and Bouchard Street bridges are expected to fully open to traffic. And after that, work is set to begin on the Edinger Avenue Bridge. We'll talk more about that shortly. And also, we'll be starting work on the first phase of the Brookhurst Street Bridge. If any of you have driven that in the last few days, you may have noticed that some restriping work has gone on there. We're making room to demolish the median and do some advanced prep work prior to shifting traffic on that bridge and starting the first half of that one. But again, that's in the coming weeks here. And toward the end of the year, we expect the first phase of the Westminster Boulevard Bridge to open and the second phase to begin. So looking to next year, Talbot Avenue Bridge is expected to fully open to traffic in spring, and that will be followed by the demolition and reconstruction of the Ward Street Bridge. In addition, we anticipate the first phases of the Fairview Road and Bolsa Avenue bridges to open and work to begin on the second phases of those bridges. So now I'd like to talk a little bit more about Edinger, and I'm going to switch the screen here. I'll try to share. Bear with me here while I make the change. All right, hopefully you are able to see, this is the Edinger Bridge. So this is the focus of our discussion today. If you could just verify for me that you are able to see it, I'd appreciate it. Pop just a 1 into the screen. It looks like we can see it, so that's good. Pop a 1 into the chat box. Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much, folks. Okay, so a little bit about Edinger. Approximately 1 week after the McFadden Avenue Bridge opens to traffic, crews will close the Edinger Bridge. Once closed, crews will begin pre-demolition activities. This includes a number of things related to utilities, but also poking holes in the old bridge deck and removing what is known as lost deck. I mentioned that a little earlier in the conversation. Those are the wood forms used during initial construction of the bridge back in the 1960s. This bridge was actually built in 1966. About 1 week after the lost deck is removed, the bridge will be demolished. And that typically happens over the course of 2 weekends, one night each weekend, where we go in, we close the freeway, we place some dirt pad on the freeway to catch any of the falling concrete, and then they go in and demolish the bridges with what are called the breaker hammers. So they're pneumatic hammers, and there's a lot of busting up of concrete, and then welders come in, they remove the rebar, they cut it off and remove it, and all of that is taken away. The main spans over the bridge are what are demolished over those weekend nights, and then throughout the week and for a couple of weeks afterward, the construction team, the contractor, is removing the sides of the bridge known as the abutments, and also removing the center columns. So there's still demolition work to do after those 2 major nights of work and in between as well. After demolition, the general process is you build the bridge abutments, the new abutments, and those are those concrete structures supporting each side of the bridge. And I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit on here and show you those, but many of you have probably seen them. And you can actually see here, we're already doing some work, but I'll zoom in a little bit here. And hopefully you can see that. It shows up through there. And as you can see on the side here, right, these concrete abutments are what are going to end up disappearing, right? And they're going to replace those. That's their first step, is to replace those. After that, they'll turn to, sorry, let me change that. Undo that. Turn the whiteboard off. I'm going to scroll to the other side here. So once they finish both of those sides, once they finish both new abutments, they'll start to work on these center columns here. So the center columns that you see in the middle of the freeway. That'll be their next step, their next big step. And then when they're done with the sides of the bridge and the center columns, they'll construct what is known as the bridge superstructure and deck. And that is that horizontal structure here you see, the formal bridge itself, and then on top of it, the top of the bridge, which is known as the bridge deck. And after that, they construct the barriers. That's what you see here at the top with the railing on the bridge. And they construct the concrete approaches to the bridge. They pour the sidewalks, the curbs, the gutters. They pave the roadway leading up to the bridge approaches. They perform any electrical work that's needed. They install the chain link fence, the railing that's going to go across. And we can share some photos of some of that as well. And just in general, they try to, they finish all of those minor activities, and then they open up the bridge. So all of that at this time is anticipated to take about 18 months. That's a little longer than usual for a one-phase bridge, but that's because of space constraints in the center area of the freeway, in this area of the freeway. So as they're looking to build these columns right here, the only way they can make room for those columns to build the new ones is to finish the abutments over on the side here and build new lanes out here on the edge and shift traffic lanes out there. So they have to do that in order to create the space in the center of the freeway to build these center columns, the new center columns. As you can see from this bridge, and I'm going to back out just a little bit. So this is a pretty good angle to show you what you have here. This is a 4-span bridge, right? Here's the first span right here, because you've got columns going underneath near this northbound, what's known as a collector distributor road. So you have columns underneath here. You have columns in the center. Let me come back to the broadcast and try to do this to the broadcast and turn my whiteboard on. So you have the first span here, the second span here, the third span, and the fourth span. And you have columns here, and columns here, all the way across. And, excuse me, in order to build the new bridge is only going to be 2 spans. So there aren't going to be any columns here, because the columns right here are going to be replaced with lanes going through there. That's in fact why we have to replace the bridge in the first place. So ultimately, we will be removing those. But in order to get into this center area right here, we need to build those outside sides of the bridge, move traffic. We need to build new lanes right here and the new lanes over here, move traffic to those outside lanes so that we can create a work area in the center of the freeway to work on those center columns. However, as you all know, if you've traveled this area, this is pretty close, and I'm going to change, I'll clear my screen here. I appreciate you bearing with me, by the way. This is the right here. This is the on-ramp right here from Beach Boulevard, right? So it's the Beach Boulevard on-ramp from to the southbound 405. That ramp has to be in its final alignment for us to build the new lanes that'll go through here, through this location, and move traffic onto them. So any work tied to the center columns of the new Edinger Bridge is actually related to completion of the new on-ramp from Center Avenue. And I'll come down here and show you that. Again, getting rid of my drawings here. So this is Center Avenue. And this is that on-ramp, as you can see. And this has to be complete. All of this work in here along Center Avenue, and this new on-ramp has to be constructed. This bridge is currently being widened, as you probably know, like this. And all of this has to be done prior to us shifting traffic over at Edwards off to the side of the freeway. So prior to being able to shift this traffic over here, all of the work up at Center Avenue has to be completed. So to be conservative, we're saying 18 months for the completion of the Edwards Bridge, because we just don't know what might happen, what might be an issue that might come up, with Center Avenue. So we're taking a conservative approach. Typically, when we talk about single stage bridges, we talk about 12 months for those things to occur. All right, I'm going to move out of this, I believe. Make sure I'm completed with my discussion about Edinger. Of course, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to go back and restart our slideshow. Stop sharing that. All right, it's Joey and me. I'm going to come back to the slideshow. I might have to course through it, so bear with me. All right. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about our engagement strategies. As you can see from this slide, we connect with the community in several ways, both in print and electronically, of course. And while we prefer face-to-face discussions for major updates like this, we'll be continuing to conduct these meetings virtually for the foreseeable future. We strongly encourage you to sign up for bridge-specific updates by clicking on the link under the Offers tab. And meanwhile, please make use of our interactive map at octa.net/405map and download our mobile app on the App Store or on Google Play. Of course, you can always find us on social media, and if you have a specific question, you can reach us there, or you can call our project helplines or email us at 405project@octa.net. If we don't have an answer for you at that time, we'll work with our colleagues on the technical team and get back to you within about a week or so. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. We have another poll that I'd like you to take. This leads me to it, and that is, what is the best way for you to get construction updates? So while you're taking that poll, if you haven't had a chance yet, please jump into the chat window and post your questions. Joey will be sharing those in a moment. Excellent.
Okay, you ready for
questions? I am ready for question number one. Please go ahead.
I believe you answered this, but I'm going to go ahead and put it up there.
Great. Will the McFadden Avenue Bridge be open before Edinger is closed? And the answer to that question is yes, it will be.
Okay, moving on to the next.
Excellent. How do I submit a claim for damages due to the 405 construction? That's a great question. If you have any concerns about property damage from the project, you can email us at 405project@octa.net, and we will facilitate the claims process with the contractor. The contractor has its own claims department. They will contact you, provide a claims form to fill out, and they will determine how to handle the claim from there. OCTA is not involved in the investigation of claims or the determination for claims. It's all up to the contractor. So they handle it, and depending on their decision, if it's something you agree with or not, you can take further action from there.
All righty. Next question from Curtis.
Let's see. Curtis says, my backyard backs up to Edinger, and the last time there was work done to flatten the dirt path, there was a lot of vaporation to my house. Will that be happening during construction? Generally speaking, yes, there will be some vibration during construction. There is there's a portion of the project where they'll be doing pile driving, for example, for each of the abutments, each of those new sides of the bridge, as well as the center columns. They will be doing excavation and then pile driving. That will cause some vibration. And if you have questions about whether or not your property will be directly affected, reach out to our team with your address. I do know that there are some plans for some pre-construction surveys, and your house may be one of those. So this is typically for homes that are with pretty close proximity to the work being done, and they check to see if basically they're doing a pre-construction survey and a post-construction survey to protect themselves and to protect you in the event that something occurs during the work. Great question.
Next question. Popular one.
Luis, when is the McFadden Bridge going to be completed? So we learned this week that our original intent was for the end of September, but according to the contractor, cement and concrete supplies are being affected by both COVID-19 in terms of materials being imported for the manufacture of cement, and concrete, which is made from cement and other aggregates. They're a little behind on that because of rolling blackouts, the suppliers for the contractor. And so in addition, there's one concrete supplier that has stopped doing business, one of the concrete suppliers for the contractor. And so all of that is leading to about a 2-week delay, it looks like. So now it looks like we're going to be opening on October 16th. That is the latest information we have. We do know that there was some concrete delivered to McFadden this week, or is being, and some work being done there on the approaches and a couple other spots to get the civil work done, the curb and gutter, et cetera, and the bridge barrier. As I mentioned, those are the last steps: the approaches, the concrete barrier, rail on the sides of the bridge, and the sidewalks, curb and gutter. So that should be occurring pretty soon on McFadden. And again, we anticipate that the concrete delivery issues, concrete manufacturing issues, are creating about a 2-week delay. This is according to the contractor.
All right.
But again, Edinger, just to clarify, Edinger will not be closed until McFadden is open.
Okay. Another question from Michael.
I don't see it.
Oh, let me try it again. Apologize.
Awesome, thank you.
There
Great, there it is, Michael Irwin. So nothing was said on the Newland Bridge. When is that anticipated to close? Newland is not gonna start until next year. I'd have to take a look at the schedule. Maybe a team member of mine in the background can take a look at the bridge map schedule, but that's meant for later. We can get more specifics for you if you need.
Got
and
it.
we will, in fact, we will.
Okay, here we go. This message is, or this question, excuse me, is from Tim.
Great, Tim. Will traffic lights be metered properly for increased morning traffic going over on Newland Bridge from Westminster to Huntington Beach? So the traffic light for Newland Bridge from Westminster to Huntington Beach. So I don't have an answer to that question. What we'll have to do is take that back to the maintenance of traffic team. There's an analysis that's done prior to the start of the project, and then it's ongoing throughout the project because we are closing bridges and some of these streets are being used as detours. So we're constantly, like daily, looking at the performance of various intersections. But I think in the final condition is probably what you're asking about. So that's something we'll need to take back to the maintenance of traffic team and ask, about the traffic light phasing and signaling. And I presume this is at Newland and Edinger that we're talking about. Going from Westminster to Huntington Beach. We'll take a look at that. And if you have some specific questions, Tim, like some specific scenarios that you've seen have occurred and you want to lay that out and help, that'll help us point out to the team what the concerns might be about the future condition and whether or not they will be addressed.
And I know you answered this question already, but somebody missed it. So if we could just address it once more.
Sure. So the question is from Joyce, when will the Edinger Bridge be closed? So right now, we anticipate that it'll be closed in late October. It'll close 1 week after McFadden opens. That is the plan. And then once Edinger closes, again, late October, they will do a week's worth of sort of prep prior to demolition. And then demolition will take place over, the main portion of the demolition will take place over the course of 2 weekend nights. And that's when we close down the freeway. And then all of the other demolition will take place either under lane closures or behind K-rail, that temporary concrete barrier that gets installed. And that demolition of like the center columns or the sides of the bridge, known as the abutments, that takes a couple, 3 weeks to finish off completely. They will do that work as noted in the FAQ for this. They will do that work during the day and at night because they really need to move quickly on demoing the bridge and getting it out.
I do have one other question, but you'd answered it regarding Edinger and McFadden, the relationship between Edinger and McFadden and the closure.
Okay.
Let me see. Pull it back up again.
Yes, so Gerard, yes, will McFadden open before Edinger is worked on? Yes, it will. There's still some prep work they can do. You can see that they did some clearing and grubbing. They try to do advanced work to, if there are utility tasks that need to be completed before they demolish the bridge. You can see that they'll do some of that work ahead of time, but they won't close the roadway until after McFadden is open. Good questions, though.
Okay. Another similar question that we should address.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dawn says, when will the McFadden Bridge really open? It seems like there is no hurry on to get it finished. Is Newland going to be closed like Edwards or be open during construction? So two separate questions. Let me address the McFadden one first. You are absolutely right. McFadden was the very first bridge we went out and talked about. And at that time, we weren't terribly experienced in the construction of the bridges. And we thought the general information we were provided by the technical team is a one-phase bridge takes about 12 months. A two-phase bridge takes about 24 months. And that was consistent with the schedule. It was actually before we had the final baseline schedule from the contractor. Once we received the baseline schedule from the contractor, McFadden looked like it was more of a 15-month bridge, so 3 months longer than we had expected, right? And we thought, okay, well, 3 months longer than we expected. We've told the community approximately 12 months. Let's continue to work with it, and then as we get more information, we'll provide updates, which we updated the community throughout the process. As we moved into the phase of construction where pile driving was done, where compaction of the abutments, the sides of the bridge, the dirt portions behind the concrete portions of the sides of the bridge. As we move into that stage, we heard from the surgical center that is basically right at McFadden and the freeway. I think they're called Tower Surgical Associates. And they let us know that, hey, we've got eye surgery going on here. We've got a lot of eye surgery. We've got other kinds of surgery. Is there any way you could work around that schedule? And we had been working around the schedule for, we'd ensured that pile driving was being done only during the daytime and not at night, because we wanted to ensure that resident sleep wasn't disrupted to the greatest extent possible. And so we needed to work with the business community as well to work around that schedule. That added a couple of more months to the schedule for McFadden, because we had to hold off on some pile driving and we coordinated the surgery schedule for like 5 months, basically, continued ongoing, right? And the next thing that hit us was the winter of 2018, 2019, right? And that was a winter where we had 140%. So 40% more than normal rain. And it came at a time where we were still in the ground for these bridges. We were still having to do the pile driving, working on excavation, working on the dirt abutments. And typically in construction, if you're above ground and you've got your concrete in place, it's about a 1-for-1 or a 1-for-2 day delay when it comes to rain. In the case of this instance with McFadden, we weren't out of the ground yet, so it ended up being about a 1 to 10. So for every day of rain, we had about 10 days of delay. So the rain's added a significant amount of delay. And remember, we've only got about 22 to 25 working days a month. So it's not like, they're working every single day. Generally speaking, they try to work Monday through Friday. There are some Saturdays where they can and have worked. But that rain added a significant amount of delay. Another thing that added sort of to the complexity of the bridge itself is, again, you had narrow, constrained right-of-way. Well, first of all, you've got a pretty complex bridge in itself. It's one of the biggest bridges on the project, a huge number of square feet, like 50,000 square feet, I believe, of bridge, and that's significant. Plus, when we got out there and we started working within the right-of-way, we ran into a utility conflict that had to be addressed. That required making some design changes. And those design changes have to be signed off by Caltrans. They have to meet Caltrans standards, and they have to be signed off by Caltrans. So that added a bit more to the delay. So once these things were resolved, things have moved pretty fast, full steam ahead. And the contractor is under a tremendous amount of pressure, both from OCTA and the cities of Westminster and Huntington Beach, to finish that McFadden Bridge. They aren't dragging their feet. They're moving as quickly as they can. And we ran into this last couple of weeks. We found out this week about these next 2 weeks of delay. We really were excited about the bridge opening. We had an update on the McFadden Bridge where we were able to tell people, hey, we anticipate it opening at the end of September. We're really looking forward to it. But even in that meeting, I expressed hesitation, or we always want to say anticipated or scheduled to, because things happen in construction. Who could have forecast the pandemic and the impact it would have on materials delivery, the rolling outages as a result of the heat wave? If you want to look into it further, the way cement is used and concrete is created and mixed, they have to keep their kilns running. They have to keep a certain level of humidity as they're building this. They can't do that without power. So it has, in fact, truly affected the supplies of concrete. And we have looked up and down the state to see, hey, is this happening elsewhere? Yes, it is. You'll notice instances of happening in the Bay Area on projects up there too. So, it's unfortunate. We realize the impact it has on the community, but we got a commitment from the contractor. We're not going to close Edinger until McFadden is open, and that's key. And meanwhile, we're gonna work to do our best to make sure Edinger stays on time. The second part of your question had to do with, can you bring that question back up? I'm sorry, Joey.
Sure.
From Dawn, right?
Yeah. Sorry, let me find it. Dawn, there he is. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for your patience. We really appreciate it. Let's see. Is Newland going to be closed like Edwards or be open during construction? I am virtually certain that Newland is a one-phase bridge like Edwards. And like Edinger, I should say. Edinger is a one-stage bridge. So Newland likely will be closed fully. And it's not going to happen until after Edinger is completed, by the way. We aren't going to take away Newland and Edinger at the same time. I'm going to ask my team to verify that. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. So if you could, team, let me know. That'd be great.
Okay.
What's next?
All righty. This is from Angie.
Angie says, is Beach Boulevard going to remain open going south from McFadden? Beach Boulevard south from McFadden. Yes, it is. It's going to be, you're going to have access to it. So the thing that's going to change with the Beach Boulevard interchange, and why don't I bring up the Google map again and share that for you so you can see what's going on there. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so you've got north-south, you have Beach Boulevard, right? And here is McFadden, right? So you'll be able to go south. We don't anticipate ever closing Beach fully, except very intermittently. Once in a while, we might need to do it. We've virtually completed the widening on the south side of the freeway. The north side widening is coming up. You know that we've closed and reconfigured this loop on-ramp. Pardon me. We've closed, I'll bring my whiteboard up again. We've reconfigured this ramp already, right? This ramp has been reconfigured to end here. It still is right turn only here, but ultimately the configuration will be such that this ramp, and I'm going to move my screen down a little bit here to clear this. So this off-ramp will come to a T. It already is almost in that configuration. It's in a temporary configuration right now, in a construction stage configuration. And this ramp will disappear. This ramp on the southbound is already, it's going to be realigned closer up here. Sorry, I'm going to clear that. And talk about this ramp. It's going to move south. And you'll be coming on at this angle. And I think that actually might already be somewhat in play. And then again, you'll come here and you'll come to a T. And there'll be a signalized intersection and you'll be able to turn right and go north or turn south. The same applies. And I'm going to come here. Again, clear my screen. This ramp, if you haven't seen it, has already been eliminated. This already has a signal at it. Center drive is being widened, and there will be 2 left turn and 2 right turn lanes to go north and 2 to go south. And this, of course, is being reconfigured here to loop on. It's a little tighter, and this is being reconfigured to come off here. So those are the changes that are happening at Beach Boulevard, most of the changes that are happening there. And it does give you a sense of that. But yes, you will, during construction, you will still be able to head south on McFadden from Beach Boulevard. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Come back to us. Any more questions?
Yes, and I don't know that you answered this. You may have already.
Yeah, we asked Tim to reach out to us, Joey, with more specifics about his question, and then we'll be able to help him with that. And by the way, any questions that we get during this session that we are unable to answer or need to go to the technical team for, we'll capture that in a Q&A, and we will email everybody who's participated in the meeting, everybody who's signed up for the meeting.
Got it. Okay. This is from Ellen.
Great. Alan says, Edinger is very heavily used street. What is being done to minimize the impact on surrounding streets? If you mean during construction of the bridge, which I suspect is what you do mean, again, the maintenance of traffic, the MOT team comes into play. So at the start of the project, there is an analysis of each of the bridges and what the impact is or is not going to be on a given surrounding set of arterials and intersections based on bringing that bridge out of service and having official detours set up. And these official detours are approved by the city. So we're not sending anybody through residential streets. We can't stop anybody from driving on them, but we're not setting anybody down streets. We're constantly updating the information that we have in our interactive map, and that's connected to Waze. So when people use that navigation app, they can Waze will actually use the information we supply to the app and show detours that have been approved by the city. So obviously Newland will be used, Beach will be used, on the south side, sorry, on the east side. Again, yeah, Newland will we anticipate people will go even further east than that, using Magnolia. Magnolia is under construction, but again, it's open to traffic. So it's primarily those that we anticipate being used. I hope that answers the question. And we do have the official detour routes that we can share with you. We'll include them in the Q&A that we'll send out following this meeting. And they will come to you, by the way, prior to the closure of Edinger.
And Chris, this is from Alan as well, and it's very similar, but I want to make sure that we at least touch on it. Sure.
So the traffic analysis, as I mentioned, there's a traffic memo with each bridge, with each that analyzes the impact of taking traffic on a given bridge and putting it onto detours. And that traffic memo typically has a clear list of recommendations on how to mitigate the impact of taking a bridge out of service. The reality, of course, is that there will be congestion on surrounding streets. Newland, Magnolia, McFadden, Beach Boulevard, right? There will be congestion on those streets, but it is minimized to the greatest extent possible, and that's by extending signal phasing times, right? So they'll lengthen the signal phase for a given intersection. Again, it's all based on the analysis, based on traffic, and this analysis is ongoing. It's not just, hey, we look at it once back before anything was changed. We're constantly reviewing the numbers, and we do that in concert with each of the cities. And then, so we optimize traffic signal operations. We may restripe where necessary. There may be situations where it makes sense to add an additional turn pocket. So we'll restripe, and we can make those temporary changes very quickly. And with city concurrence, of course. Everything is done with city concurrence on city streets. So that's generally how we mitigate the impact.
Okay. This question's from Lee.
Great. Lee says, when will the Magnolia Bridge be completed? Lee, it is anticipated to be completed in spring of next year. So you'll start to see the what's called the false work go up. That's the temporary support structure. It's made of mostly steel and some timber. And that's the temporary structure that's in place to support the bridge until it can self-support, right? Until the bridge, what are called the stem and soffit, until that's poured, right? That's that superstructure, that horizontal structure. And then once that's poured and the deck is poured, well, the stem and soffit is formed, and then concrete is poured. And by the way, I'm a little bit of a nerd on that, but the reason that they set that up that way is because they don't want this monolithic piece of concrete. They create cells in the middle using these wood forms, and they pour the concrete around it. So they have these open cells in each of the bridges, and that way it's not too heavy and won't collapse up, obviously. So they pour that, then they lay rebar across the top of that, a tremendous amount of rebar, and then they pour the bridge deck. There's a tensioning process These are post-tension bridges, I believe. And then there's a cure process for all of that, 28-day cure process once that's poured, and then they remove the false work after that. And once they remove the false work, you can, the bridge is in pretty good shape. You know, there are no, typically no more, there are no design issues, things like that. Of course, hopefully no more blackouts and less COVID-19 impact on the material distribution. But there's always something, you know, that does impact. But we try to do our best to minimize that to the extent possible, what we can control.
Oh.
I just want to circle back and say that, yes, Newland is a one-stage bridge. It is anticipated for 2021. And I would like a verification from the team, though, that, in fact, it will not start until Edinger is completed. So please look into that last question for me. Thank you.
Okay, from Dawn.
All right, Don says, please tell us about the new carpool lane. We use it now, but we will have to pay when the 405 gets going. So Don, yeah, that's a great question. We have an FAQ on the carpool lanes, on the express lanes, the 405 express lanes, which is what they'll be called, and a map, and that's available in the files section. But let me talk a little bit about it. So right now, you can access those carpool lanes if you have 2 or more in the car with you, right? And you can ride them up and down the corridor, down to South County, almost down to the San Diego County line, in fact. And then through North Orange County, you can get all the way up into LA and take the 605 and the 405 North, etc. Well, if you, Caltrans is the owner-operator of the freeway system. In Orange County, we are a self-help county. We have Measure M, and we also have, as OCTA, we are the Regional Transportation Planning Authority, right? But the owner-operator of the highway system is Caltrans. They determine what is built on their freeways. They collaborate with OCTA, but they determine, like, they oversee that effort. And in large part, the leverage they have is through the environmental process. Each construction project on the freeway has essentially 4 phases, more or less. You plan it, you look at, okay, what is the issue? You identify the issues and you plan ways to address those issues. And in that planning process, you sort of narrow it down. You may start with 16, 17, 20 ideas and you narrow it down to the top 3. And you take into consideration the impact on the right of way. Are you going to take any private property in doing this? And by the way, on our project, we have several right-of-way temporary construction easements, but we're taking very little private property. And then there is only one full acquisition on the project, and that is from a business owner who asked us to take that property, and so a deal was negotiated there. But right-of-way is a consideration in the planning phase. And then you get to the environmental phase, and that's where all the analysis is done, the environmental impacts. And one of the things that you have to analyze is, how is this project going to help with greenhouse gas emissions? How is it going to help the state and the feds meet goals that have been established? And that's where you get into managed lanes. And HOV lanes, or carpool lanes, high occupancy vehicle lanes, are a form of managed lanes. Well, the next level of managed lane is a tolled lane, right? So HOT lanes, high occupancy toll lanes. But the distinction with toll lanes is you can actually be a single driver and use them as well. You can be a solo driver. So the Caltrans mandated that we build the express lanes the way we're building them. And they wouldn't let the project extend past the environmental phase until we did. Now, we have some, OCTA has the ability to move a project forward, of course, but Caltrans's response, because the initial plan for this project was add a general purpose lane in each direction, which we're still doing, and add an HOV lane in each direction. I'm sorry, I believe it was to add 2 regular lanes, 2 general purpose lanes. Caltrans said, we want you to add another HOV lane and we want to make those lanes tolled because we make sure we hit our greenhouse gas emissions. And that means fewer cars on the road. And so throughout the process, our board, the OCTA board, they declined to move forward with that. with HOT lanes, with express lanes. However, Caltrans said, well, that's fine. We'll come in and build them later. So you build your project where you add your lanes, and we're going to come in and build our HOT lanes later. At that point, the board had to stop and say, okay, we need to take a closer look at this. We need to understand what the impacts are. And we need to, if they're going to put toll lanes in, OCTA, the local authority, wants to control the tolling policy and wants to control the revenue coming out of that. So there were laws passed that allowed us to do that. The board ultimately agreed to work with Caltrans. Caltrans brought some money to the table for part of that process, and said, and so we said, and by the way, we didn't want to put the public through building the initial lane and then have to go through another 5 years of building the express lanes. So we combined it all into one project. We minimized the right-of-way impacts, and we control the revenue that will come from those toll lanes, and we control the management of those toll lanes. It's in coordination with the state, of course, but the benefit there is the excess toll revenue will be put back into transportation improvements within the project corridor. And that's key. We wanted to be able to control that. And we also get to manage, just like we do on the 91 express lanes, we get to manage the tolls, the toll policies. And you look at the 91 express lanes, we do a good job managing that. We keep the tolls to a minimum. Most people think that it's excessive, $20, et cetera, but that's actually when you get outside of Orange County, not within Orange County. And the benefit is those excess toll revenues from the 91 do help and go toward transportation improvements elsewhere on the corridor. In fact, they're going towards some 91 improvements in the near future. The construction of the toll lanes, that was another issue with for the board, right? They did not want, I mentioned earlier, we're a self-help county. We have Measure M. This project to widen the 405 between the 55 essentially and the 605, that's known as Project K in Measure M. You can see that on our website if you go to octa.net/Measure M. We rebranded it as OCGO, so you could go to octa.net/OCGO. And you can see the measure right there. And this project, Project K, is part of that. Well, we didn't want local tax dollars to go to express lanes, constructing express lanes. So OCTA secured a federal infrastructure loan and at a very good low interest rate. And that money is what's being used to construct the toll lanes, the express lanes. And a couple of other elements related to it, right? So you've got the gantries, you've got the express lanes management responsibilities. That's all being funded through that loan. And what's important is your tax dollars are not going to pay off that loan. And there is a date certain, I don't remember what it is, when that will be paid off. But the way that operations and maintenance of the toll lanes, plus the excess revenue that comes from that, that's all paid through tolls. And it's been shown that it can and will work. There's a full traffic and revenue study that had to be done in order to secure the loan. And you can see that on the 91, we more than meet the cost of maintenance operations, and there is excess toll revenue to go toward improvements. The same is anticipated and projected out through the toll and revenue, through the traffic and revenue study for the 405 express lanes. So yes, all of that is to say that if you have one person in the car, they will have to pay to use the toll lanes. They will actually be moving out of the regular lanes, the general purpose lanes though, providing an opening there. Plus we're adding capacity by adding general purpose lanes. In addition, if you're two or more, for the first 3.5 years, you ride for free in the toll lanes. If you're three or more, you ride for free in the toll lanes. After 3.5 years, to meet the projections of the toll and revenue study, it's one or two and who pay tolls, and only three or more that ride for free. And the range of tolls is anticipated to be anywhere from about 50 cents to $1 all the way up to about $10 at peak times. That is the expectation according to, again, the traffic and revenue study. That is a very long-winded answer, but I think it's important to clarify that. So hopefully that helped.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is from Alan.
Alan says, any insight on how this might affect property values while construction is going on? I don't have any information on that. We have not received any indication that that there has been an impact to property values, but I wouldn't be privy to that. It's not really a question I can answer. I think that's probably best reserved for a real estate agent to tell you.
Okay. This question is from Denise. Whoops. Denise and her husband.
Great. Denise, when will construction begin on the Heil Bridge? That's a great question. It was demolished probably about a little over a month ago, I believe. And that is a bridge where, again, space constraints, very tight, but they still anticipate it to take a year. So it's supposed to be open by next summer. If you live at the Heil and Landau side, which is on the southbound side of the freeway, you know there's a really tight area there. And the bridge at Heil is actually going to be reconfigured. Right now it crosses the freeway perpendicular to the freeway. It's actually going to be at a skew, the new bridge. So they are just working on making sure that they get the space they need to work on those landings. That's the first thing they'll do. And then they have some roadway work to do where they'll shift traffic a little bit to the outside and try to work on the center column. That's just one column for the pedestrian bridge. But we can get a more specific update on the status of construction for that bridge, and we'll include it in the Q&A. You're also welcome to email us directly, and we can get that response to you as well.
And I apologize. The question that I was referring to regarding was for Angie and her husband, and this question here.
Gotcha. My husband and I are wondering how much added cost has each bridge accumulated for going over the projected completed date, and are there any financial penalties for going over the projected completed date? So I don't have any information about added cost. That's actually not determined at this time. And really the schedule and cost are, they're tied together, but they're separate. What we're really looking for is always ways to mitigate schedule delay. An example of that, we just went to the City of Fountain Valley City Council meeting, and you can take a look at the recorded presentation. This was Tuesday. And we talked about the schedule mitigation that we discussed with the City of Fountain Valley. We've had similar discussions with the City of Huntington Beach and Westminster, and this is to advance work on other aspects of the project. One of those examples is, for example, one of those instances is, for example, starting Brookhurst prior to Talbot being finished, but after Bouchard is finished. So Bouchard is expected to be done about mid-October as well, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And Bouchard will start not long after that. That's giving Bouchard about a 5-month start. We're going to end construction on Bouchard 5 months earlier than we anticipated. Another schedule mitigation is the Warner Avenue Bridge, very large bridge in Fountain Valley. The city has agreed to allow us to construct that bridge in one stage instead of two. And we will have several bridges open that'll mitigate the traffic impacts of that. They include Magnolia will be open by then, because this is next summer. Of course, McFadden, Bouchard, Talbot, Slater, 5 bridges open, all open and ready to go before that happens. So that'll help to mitigate things. So we're always looking to mitigate schedule. But the project, it's not like the contractor gets any more money or anything like that. It doesn't work that way.
This is from Jerry.
Jerry says, my block wall was damaged at the start of the Edinger Bridge. When will the repairs be done? So if I'm going to guess this is on the east side, north of Edinger, in there. If the answer to your question is that if you've begun the claims process, and if you haven't, please do, and we can facilitate that. We put the information in the chat box before, we'll do it again. But we need to get the claims process started so that the insurance carrier for the contractor can actually get somebody out there, take a look at things, see, determine if it was a cause of the project, and then go from there. So that would be the key.
Great. This is from Dawn.
I just want to, before we go on, Dawn, I want to be clear. So I asked the team earlier to check on whether Newland would start after Edinger was completed. The information we got back from the technical team is they don't have access to the schedule right this second. They're looking it up for us, but we don't know for sure. So I want to be clear about that. We don't have an answer. I want to be as transparent as possible. So Dawn says, do you have cement for the other bridges, but not for McFadden? No, the same issue applies to everything, and it's not just the bridges. It's the concrete barriers. It's the channels. It's the concrete paving for the roadway. It's definitely an issue. But our understanding from talking to experts in the field is that it's about a 5 to 6 week issue, not months and months and months. It's not that kind of issue.
Thank you.
And again, it's dependent on the environment, right? We're dealing with rolling blackouts that affected the supplier's ability to manufacture the concrete. Yeah, in part, and then of course materials delivery with the impact to distribution lines and then worldwide. Basically a third of all building materials that come into the United States are from China, for example. So there's a lot. We get our materials from all over the world. I shouldn't say all over the world, but India, China, it's all been impacted. So these guys are having to make the best of things.
And Chris, I know that you answered this question already, but I think she might have jumped in a little bit later, so I want to make sure we address this from Sue.
Certainly. Sue says, when will the Magnolia Bridge be completed and fully open to traffic? And that is anticipated, Sue, to be spring of 2021.
And that I think we've covered all of the questions, Chris.
All right. Sounds good. If you do have any more questions, you can always email us. I don't know if we have the last slide. We can put up that last slide. I'm going to start the presentation and maybe I can go backward through it. Let me see if I can go all the way through. I'm going to hit start, but I'm going to, oh, there it is. Perfect. That's the last slide. Any more questions, call us at the numbers there, email us at the project email, contact us through social media, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you. Really appreciate your time. These meetings, I think, they're very helpful. They help us understand some of the concerns that the public has, and we convey that to our colleagues. I hope they're helpful to you. I hope they're convenient for you. It makes it easier than having to sort of get in the car and schlep on over to the nearest field or school or park or something like that. Although we are missing the donuts and coffee, I apologize for that. So have a virtual cup of coffee if you will. But really appreciate you taking the time on a Thursday afternoon and evening, and look forward to talking to you again in the future as we get closer to the next bridge. We'll hold another one of these meetings. So thank you so much and have a great night.